The Drake Michigan podcast is sponsored by Masterpiece, the nano heavy metal detox miracle. Start your journey to freedom from toxins, heavy metals, graphene, and forever chemicals. For more information and to purchase this miracle product, see the description below. So just say hello to all our Drake Michigan viewers. And today we've been really honoured because we've been contacted from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, from the USA, by Charles Hamm. And am I right are you in Texas, Charles?
Yes, sir. I'm a Texan.
Wow, fantastic, Texas. So, but we're really honoured as well because, we'll go into it a bit later because we feel like we might have a bit of a market or a bit of an opening or information for people in the US with the stuff that we teach. There's a lot of people over that way. So we're really happy for you to be sort of the first person who's contacted us to have this type of interview. And we're really intrigued as well because we've watched a few of your videos and your clips. And I think you've got a fantastic short story to share with people. And it seems like you're helping so many people. So without further ado, Charles, if you can we'll jump back in and you explain to people. You were just telling us you retired at 76, was it? 74?
74.
74. And if we just pick that up from there.
Okay. After I retired, I'd been an entrepreneur all my life, just kind of living by my wits. And when I retired, as I was saying earlier, I thought I would just sit on the cabin porch and in a rocking chair and watch the hummingbirds for the rest of my days. And I got kind of bored with that and was trying to think of something I could do.
Yeah.
And I had never written a book before, never even really thought about it. I'm an avid reader. I'm a passionate reader and student of ancient history. But I was sitting there one morning thinking about the state of affairs in our country and really in the whole world. And I made an observation. I think I'm prone to do this. History to me was not studying dates and events so much as it was a study of human nature and how through all the years, thousands of years, we haven't really changed much at all.
No.
And so one of the observations that I made was that it seemed like everybody was mad.
Yeah.
It didn't make any difference what side of the political spectrum you came down on or social issues. Nobody was happy. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm not mad. So and just in a moment, there was just like something came over me and I felt like I had something to say.
Yeah.
And I had a forum of sorts on LinkedIn. And so I started writing messages on LinkedIn or posts and articles, just telling people what I thought, and developed quite a following. And then, and all of this was just, me trying to tell whoever I could get to listen to me how I thought about things, and just kind of telling everybody to calm down and get a grip,
Yeah.
And after I had written several articles, this went on for a while. People started saying, "Mr. Charles, you need to write a book."
Nice.
And I'd tell them, the title of my book is "Ponder on It, Pilgrims," and so I told him, well, I'm pondering on it, and which I really wasn't, but it kind of kind of put them at bay. And so this kept happening. And one day this young man messaged me and he said, "You need to write a book." And I said, "Well, I'm pondering on it." And he said, "No, no, 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 no." He said, you don't get it. You need to write a book."
Right.
And he set in on me. And the next thing I know, he told me, he says, "I know a publisher and I'm going to contact her and get you all in touch." Well, the next thing you know, I'm talking to this nice lady up in Minnesota named Miss Hillary Jastrom. And I talked with her for an hour and a half. And when I got off the phone, I was writing a book.
Amazing.
Love it.
So I wrote the book, and the title of it is Ponder on It, Pilgrims. And the subtitle that was given to it was The Bucolic Mark Twain on Critter Councils, Cookie Bandits, and Texas Grit. So the Critter Councils, it's a long story, but
Yeah.
Cookie Bandits are my grandchildren. I call them Cookie Bandits. The oldest was going to turn 20 in November, but she's still a cookie bandit. They all are. But the book went live on April 20th of 22. It's been about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
And within 36 hours after it was available, it was a 3-time #1 international bestseller.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was just
fantastic.
That's wonderful.
I was just flabbergasted. I can't explain that. But that book is now sold in 16 different countries.
That's amazing.
All over the world. And if for no other reason than that fact, I encourage people to read it. If you read the reviews on Amazon, I'll let people speak for themselves. but a lot of nice things have been written about the book. Yeah. And my basic what I did was I told a lot of personal stories. Some of them were kind of hard to write, very personal things about my life.
Yeah.
And here I am now. I'm 77 on the downside of 77, heading headlong towards 78. And I all of a sudden have become an author and a speaker, and
tremendous.
And nice people invite me on podcasts like y'all, and but the book, the thread of the book is about living wisely, being wise. And I ask people when I speak, when was the last time you ever heard someone referred to?
Charles, just before you go forward, can I just quickly ask you something then?
Absolutely.
Do you think the success of the book is because the authenticity, and because basically when you were putting it together, you never put it together for, like some people write a book because they want to like sort of fame, fortune, money, that whatever reason. But it seems like you were putting your book together because of your lifetime experiences and because you genuinely wanted to share and help people. And I wonder if because it come from that angle, that's why it has done well. I
can't say, but what I will say is this: I was putting all the content of the book more or less on LinkedIn in my posts and stuff, and wasn't asking anybody to give me a dime.
Yeah, exactly.
I always went back, and I've never lost sight of why I did this, what prompted it from the beginning. And that was, I felt like I had something to say that people needed to hear.
Yeah.
And I've never been motivated by anything other than that. I've got a TV show now. I have a radio show, and
Love it.
but I've never lost sight of where I came from. And where I came from was I felt like I had something to say.
Yeah.
And I want to bring in one important point. In talking about wisdom, I realize that with a lot of people, we don't even use the word anymore, and we're losing the concept of it, and we're losing the reality of wise people for the most part.
Yeah.
But I wanted to I wanted to take this out of the world of just some intellectual concept and make it real. And as I was, again, most of all of this came from me rocking it on the cabin porch. I started thinking, and I realized something I'd never really thought about before, and that is a fundamental of basic human nature, that all day long, every single day of our lives, we do 4 different things all day long, every day. And I tried to think of a 5th one. But the 4, it all worked into the 4. The 4, I called them the 4 golden questions. And they're, what would a wise person do? The 4 things are: we do things, we say things, we think things, and we feel things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I said, all right, ask yourself the question: if you have something that you need to do that's consequential, what would a wise person do? And then if you're about to say something or feel like you have something to say, before you speak, take a moment and ask, what would a wise person say? Now, sometimes what we do and what we say, the answer to those questions would be absolutely nothing. Don't do anything and sit there and keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything.
That's wise.
But the third thing was, what would a wise person think? Now it's starting to get down inside of you. We can learn a lot about ourselves, but by what preoccupies our mind.
Definitely.
Well, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about? And if you don't like what's captured your mind, as I say, you can change it. You have control over your thoughts.
Yeah.
And then the last one, what would a wise person feel, gets right down into your heart. And what is in your heart? If your heart is filled with anger and jealousy and envy and greed and lustful things and desire, is that wise? Would you rather have love, joy, and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and forgiveness, goodness and self-control? Would you rather that be in your heart or all those other things? And what happened to me this was, I was writing all of this, but there was something happening to me all through this as well.
Yeah.
As I looked back over my life and realized how often what a fool I'd been, and you know, I wanted to make give people a concept of how wisdom could actually work in their lives. And I will tell you this, one thing that I observed, and I've had so many people comment to me about this very thing. When you ask yourself the question, what would a wise person do, for instance, there's something down inside of you that changes.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind starts working on another level, on another plane than
Yeah.
what it normally does. And I believe that the answers to all of our questions and all of our problems and issues, and the answer to every question you could ask, what would a wise person do? I believe that question is within us. It's
100%.
it's there. It is there. And people will ask me, people will write me and want advice, and they'll tell me all their troubles. I mean, I could go on and on. And I tell them, seek wisdom.
Yeah.
I don't care what your problem is, seek to be wise in your life, in your deeds and your words and your thoughts and in your heart. Seek wisdom. And I believe that that's the answer to everything. And one interesting thing, and then I'll hush, is when you're still trying to work through all of this, and you ask what would a wise person do, for instance, the answer will come. But if you're like me, and where I was at times during this process, I really didn't like the answer.
Yeah. Or sometimes we don't listen and accept the
Yeah.
answer.
I didn't want to do what it was saying a wise man would do. I still had some issues, you know.
Yeah.
And it has worked the transition in my own life, and I'm just for the remainder of my days, however long it is, uh, I'm trying to talk to people about what I'm talking to y'all about right now.
It's fantastic that, Charles, because a lot of people, because especially, and I'd imagine, and I want to ask you a question about how times have changed over the years. But my feelings are at the moment that the world is extremely fast. People, especially in the Western civilizations, we are programmed very heavily, and that'll be school to work to surviving to look putting food on the table for your kids, to bringing your kids up, blah, blah, and life is extremely fast. So when there are situations arise for an individual, often there is a reaction rather than a sitting back of wisdom. You are reacting to it.
Absolutely. We live in a world of reaction. I grew up in another time. I was born in 1946.
Yeah.
And it was an entirely different world. I was raised by an old-fashioned father. And I tell people he was not my friend. He was my father.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a world of difference, and those lines never blurred. He didn't allow it. And in my book, I talk about an incident with my grandpa when I was 4 years old, and give people a view into what life was like back in 1950 for a little country boy visiting his grandpa. And the experiences that I had. I tell a lot of stories. I talk about my dad and lessons that he taught me, but all of it is trying to bring people to a point where they stop and find quiet time, turn everything off, get alone by yourself and learn to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And think about things. That's all. I tell people I'm not a loner, but I don't mind being alone. When I was a little boy out in the country, I spent a whole lot of time roaming around in the woods by myself, finding my own entertainment and learning the ways of the critters and the names of the trees and all of those things. But yeah, all of these marvels of our modern world, I feel like are dehumanizing us and distracting us from coming to grips with who we really are. We don't even know who we are anymore.
Charles,
we don't even know what we are.
100%.
Can I just jump in, Charles, before we move on? Because I want to bring you back to, because what you've just said about asking the question, what would a wise person do? And what you've done is in a fantastic, eloquent way, really, is you've give words to what, like some people would probably say, they meditate and they try to find the answers from within. And what you've done is by using those words, what would a wise person do? And you're sort of asking yourself, and then you're realizing, look, the answers are within us.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask there was, is there something in your life where you think that we are more than just this meat, skin and bones? Because if the answers are coming from within us, do you think that's just a natural thing, or do you think it's because we are actually more than we realize we are?
Well, you've asked a question, and so I'm gonna go there and tell you exactly what I believe. I believe that some people refer to it as the universe, the spirit of the universe.
Yeah.
I'm old-fashioned, and I call it the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
And we're told that the Spirit of God dwells within us.
Yeah.
And what I believe is if you seek wisdom and knowledge and understanding and really want to be wise, that's the kind of prayer that God will answer. Now, if you ask him for a new boat, I don't know how seriously he takes you. But if you ask him for wisdom, I think you get his attention. He said, "I'm not getting many." This is the first time I've heard this one in a long time. And I believe that we are body, soul, and spirit, and that when we ask a question like that, that our spirit touches and taps in to the Spirit of God, and an answer comes, and it always works, unless you have a lot of stuff in your life that you need to deal with. But if you start seeking to be wise, that'll be pointed out to you. It's like I said, there were times when I would ask, what would a wise person do? And I didn't like the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm uncomfortable with I don't really want to do that. and yet the answer was given to me. And so I had a problem. I needed to work on myself and figure out what was wrong with me, that I'm resisting doing the wise thing.
Yeah.
So that's my faith, and I'm not I'll share it with anyone. If you ask me, get ready for it. I'll tell you. I'll answer you.
No.
Love it.
Well, do you know what, Charles? I don't think we're too far apart.
Yes, we're not.
I think. I mean, obviously, on our platform, we do give the space, for other people's opinions and to find out, which angle they're coming from, because ultimately, as well, I mean, if everything is God and everything is energy in the universe and this kind of stuff, it's just that people might be on their own journey to find their own information, and so, it's not really fair for anyone to tell someone something else. It's just their experiences, is their journey, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But I do find all the roads seem to lead back to one place, and that is the infinite universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I think people just, when they come into this world, if you like, they're given a set of social surroundings, their experiences, and then they have to sort of make their way through that mud, if you like, that struggle. And not everybody does that, but those who get on that journey, I think they find something very wonderful.
In my study of history, I have found an amazing consistency among people who sought to do better and be better and to understand things. It's interesting to me. I'm trying to keep this short, but
that's fine.
We all come to the same seem to the same conclusions. We all have a right to do our own thinking. Mm-hmm. I've insisted on my right to do my own thinking and come to my own conclusions all my life. It doesn't mean I can't be taught, but you're not going to indoctrinate me. I'll listen to you, but I'm going to come to my own conclusions, and I may agree with you, and maybe I wouldn't. But you have a right to your thoughts, and I have a right to mine. Yeah. But in the Bible, it's the golden rule is do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Yeah.
And that fundamentally, if you get that, you pretty much get how to act and interface with other people. 600 years before Jesus said that, Confucius said this: don't do to other people what you wouldn't want them to do to you.
Yeah.
He said essentially the exact same thing. There's something in us that I believe is universal in man and in all of us that Immanuel Kant, a great German philosopher and a Christian man, said two things fill me with wonder and awe: the starry skies above and the moral law within. There's something within us that we come to understand when we start thinking about it and raise our thought processes to the level of just wanting to be wise.
Yeah. Can I ask, Charles? Obviously, you've experienced many stories that you've obviously put into your book, very personal stories. I'm very intrigued to as you see the world now to when you saw the world as you were growing up. For you to be inspired on LinkedIn and to see people battling it out, if you like, on social media, that's quite a common thing now, as politically the world seems to be on the verge of something. Well, it's catastrophic at this moment in time. I do believe that out of all that, my belief is great things will come and wonderful things come from collapses. But right now we are seeing a lot of people attacking each other. What was it like growing up through the decades? Are we seeing something completely different, or is it similar anyway?
I have a saying that history doesn't repeat itself. It just never changes. It's passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And the history of man is not the history of people being nice to each other.
Yeah.
It's a history of war and the building of empires and killing one another.
Yeah.
And I I have a little better understanding of that, maybe because I was in the Marine Corps
Mhm.
back in another life and served in Vietnam. And this, in human nature, one of the things that you can count on is that government is always corrupt.
Yeah.
There has never been a government in the history of mankind that looked really out for the interest of its people.
Mhm.
They've always been corrupt
Yeah.
because corrupt people and people who seek power over other people are always attracted to government.
Yeah.
And so the best of us don't end up there. And so we wind up being ruled by by kings and queens and emperors and dictators, and these people use the people under their control to protect and defend their personal interest.
Mhm.
That is what governments do, and that never changes. And when you think about what you all, and when I say you all, you were born after this, but think about what happened in Europe and in the United Kingdom in the 20th century.
Yeah.
It's unimaginable the chaos and the carnage and the evil that spread through that continent.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the world, we had exactly the same thing going on, and there was a window of peace and somewhat stability. I was born. I kind of chuckle about it. The baby boomers were the generation born after World War II, and all the guys came home when they started their families. And I was born 9 months after the end of World War II. I was one of the first boomers to ever come along, and we had what we called the Cold War,
Yeah.
which was a horror to think about because everybody for a good period of time seriously believed that there was going to be a nuclear exchange between the United States and the Soviet Union,
Yeah.
and we were going to be hammered back to a dark age. And yet everything kind of went along. There was prosperity in countries that didn't fall under despotism,
Mhm.
and then the technology, the world's economies were kind of linked together, but now it's all kind of firing back up again, and we're taking notice that nations are starting to invade their neighbors, and there's genuine concern. But one of the things that I talk about in my book is you can't allow yourself to just be completely preoccupied with things that you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
That's just a ticket to nowhere.
Yeah.
And I have views. I have political views. I have my thoughts about what's happening today, and yet my focus is on me just trying to be a good human being and talk to people about being wise. That's what I can do.
Yeah.
And if armies start marching, it's kind of like a situation. I mean, when I was in the Marine Corps, we had a field of fire, and there was an area that I was supposed to cover. The outcome of the war was not something for me to worry about or concern myself with. I had a little piece of real estate that I was supposed to defend, with guys on either side of me helping out. And all I was supposed to do was, if anybody came into my field of fire, make sure they had a bad day. And that was the reality of that situation. So that's all I could do. Now, I can't do anything about what's going on in the Middle East, as a case in point right now, or in Ukraine. But I can talk to people about, you know, what they can do about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. Especially at my age, I don't think the Marine Corps would want me back right now. I still have another hill or two in me, but I'd be the last one to the top, running with those young fellas. But
Charles, why we're because this is quite an unusual thing I want to talk to you about, because I don't know if you're someone who doesn't believe in coincidences. You know, we're sort of on the fence that I think everything happens for a reason. And obviously, you contacted us completely out of the blue for us, and you know, we read your bio and a little bit about yourself, and there's a few things that suddenly sort of jumped out, and I thought, whoa, this is just, you know, this is too much of a coincidence, right? Because I don't want to go too far off topic, because I want to bring it back. But the fact that you was in Vietnam, the fact that you was a US Marine Corps, is something that's really prominent in my life. And for the simple reason as well. So when you spoke before about you ask a question and you get the answers from within yourself, almost like a knowing. So back, and I don't know, and I don't want to sort of, you know, because you might not believe, I'll just tell you straight, and it's up to you to make your own conclusions.
Okay.
So, but when I was around about 28, 29 years of age, my life got flipped upside down. I was one of these young men who was chasing the dream, the money, the businesses, blah, blah, blah. And I'd never really come across religion or anything spiritual or, you know, anything like this. But my life got turned upside down with a set of circumstances.
Yes, sir.
It made me start looking at life from a completely different angle that I'd never looked at before. And during this 3, 4, 5 year period, I would sort of get into like meditation, and also have a knowing and sort of information, if you like, to give other people. Okay. But during this period, I began to see a gentleman in my mind's eye with my eyes closed. And he used to come and stand at the side of me, and he would salute. And he said he was a US Marine. So I got a piece of paper and I wrote all the information down, what he told me, right? And over a course of a few weeks, he gave me so much knowledge and information, which is one of the reasons why our channel is called it is, and why we're so passionate about, you know, the whole subject. Yes. So this Marine, when he come through, first of all, what he did, he explained to me, he served in Vietnam, and he was awarded the Purple Star by the president for his, and he was wounded saving his battalion. And then, so as I got this information and wrote it down, then he told me his name was Benjamin Drake. So I wrote it all down, and I never thought much of it until somebody said to me, the Vietnam was only in like the late 60s, 70s, that period.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we why don't we look it up and see if we can find him? So we did some research and we typed his name in and all the rest of it. And we actually found this gentleman.
Oh.
And he was from a whole family of US Marines, right? The whole family served, his dad served, his granddad served, this kind of thing. Now, at the time, we were very, very excited, because we thought, whoa, we've got this energy spirit guide, someone who's giving me information, this kind of stuff. So we reached out and tried to contact his family. Now, unfortunately, because everyone has their own beliefs.
Sure.
And his family were born-again Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't really believe in that kind of stuff, if you like. And what I always remember was his email address was www.ilovejesus.com. So at the time, I was having this whoa, I was thinking, God's talking to me. Jesus, what's happening? I was going through this profound episode in my life. I thought I couldn't. And also what he was giving me so much good information. He was telling me I needed to sort my life out. My life had to be military. There's a time for playing. There's a time for fun. There's a time for work, discipline. And he was saying to me, look, if you want to take this serious and if you want to know stuff, you have to take life serious, and there's time for being, with family, and there's time to do work. And he sort of gave me this knowledge and information. Yes, and so obviously, we didn't want to be disrespectful to his family, so we never contacted again. But before, and this is where it got really extraordinary. Before we finished the conversation, because I think I emailed him, but also phoned as well, they said to me he wasn't dead. So we were like, what do you mean he's not dead? And he was actually in a coma, right, from his injuries. Because he must have had shrapnel, in his body. And because I believe after the Vietnam, he went on to be a doctor. Really, and so by all accounts, I think he would have been a very good man, that kind of stuff, and help people. So we were very, very confused because we were like, maybe when we're in, a coma, maybe our spirit or our energy or is maybe we don't just need this physical body, but maybe we're connected with, God and the universe in so many ways that we don't even understand.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, I was receiving this information. Also, at the time, I was having this profound connection with the place, Michigan. Now, I've never been to America in my life. I've never done any research in my life, nothing like that. So to have all this information was just completely surreal. And anyway, so then sort of the energy went back. So he sort of left, he stopped coming through, if you like. And then obviously, so he, and I do believe, I'm not sure, but I think recently he might have, passed. So it'll be interesting. But when I saw you and that you'd served in the US Marines and everything else, and I just thought, oh my, this is just so fascinating. But anyway, so I'm sorry but I digress, if you like. But
no, I've enjoyed what you said. Coincidence. If there's no such thing as a coincidence, how did the word work itself into our vocabulary? I mean, we all have a concept that things. I don't use the word coincidence as much as I say the stars aligned.
Yeah.
And that's. I feel like. I feel like there's a reason that we're talking today.
Yes.
And I mean, what's the likelihood that our paths would have ever crossed? And yeah, here the three of us sit talking, and I like to. Some things are worth believing, whether they're true or not. We don't know whether it's true or not, but it's worth believing and makes me feel a little better to think that there is a reason why we're talking, and that our paths crossed. Uh, I have this speaks to something else that you said earlier. Wisdom will always be the first casualty of unrestrained behavior. Now, if you ponder on that, we live our lives just completely out of control, without giving. As you referred to, Mr. Kev, there was a time in your life when you were, you were just completely out of it, and you harvested the fruit of that kind of a life. But when you started restraining yourself and showing a little self-discipline, which is the highest form of discipline, some disciplines imposed on us, some we impose on ourselves. And what we impose on ourselves is for reasons that we think are in our best interest. And when you start going there with these kinds of thoughts, great changes can take place in your life, and you've experienced that. Everyone throughout history, in one degree or another, has believed in a higher power. It's only been in recent years, the last 150 or so, 200 years, that secular humanism came onto the scene, that we have allowed ourselves to deny that reality. Now, there may have been a pantheon back in the old days with a lot of people where they believed in multiple gods. But one thing I observed was that world over, everybody believed that the most high God was the creator.
Yeah.
It was always, he was the creator. Zeus sat up on top of Mount Olympus, and he was the most high God of the Greeks, and he was the creator. And I could go on with this. And in our religious tradition with, for instance, Christianity, we believe the same thing.
Yeah.
And that there's a creator. And so it puts a certain discipline in our life, and a sense of responsibility that we need to be better. There's a sense in man that's universal, that we're not what we were intended to be. There's something wrong with us. Something's not quite right, and we struggle with this. And all of the ancients believed that at one time there was a golden age.
Yeah.
When people had 100% use of their brain capacity, and it was a time of peace and love and harmony. In the Bible, it called it the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
The Egyptians called it Septepi, which meant the first time. But they were talking about the same thing. This is within man. The Greeks called it the Golden Age. And it's in all of this is in the collective memory of man. It's in us, and we know this, but we don't always live as if it was true. But it's quite a realization when you. My ancient history interest was the period they called prehistory.
Right.
I bet I've read the first 6 chapters of Genesis 1,000 times.
Wow.
And because it's a little window from the Hebrew tradition of what was going on in a time before history was being recorded. It was a prehistorical time before the flood. And by the way, the flood isn't just mentioned in the Bible. There's over 500 traditions around the world of people that believe that there was a universal flood. And so much of what we read is collective wisdom that was shared by everybody, and our source has primarily been the Bible on some of these things. But Gilgamesh from ancient Sumeria was talked about a universal flood, and instead of Noah, it was a man named Utnapishtim. But it's the same story.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
There's something in us that guides us if we just let it. And that's why people ask me if I consider myself a wise man, and I said no. If there's anything that would distinguish me, I said, basically, I'm an old man struggling not to be an old fool. And that's about as high as I'll compliment myself, because I am struggling not to be an old fool. And I think some people aren't in the struggle. And that's the only difference between them and me. I try to do the right thing and try to think the right way, but be tolerant of everybody. We can't make everybody in the world love each other, but we can, and it's a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely.
And people disagree with me. We have disagreements about religion and politics and all these things, but we're all human beings, and that makes us in on a certain level, we're all the same. And I refuse not to love someone because they don't agree with me about who to vote for president. Or disagree with me about certain social issues. I don't care what you think about those things. You're my brother, and you're my sister.
That's lovely. That's a lovely way. Lovely way of being that.
The people that we haven't really gotten into it, but the people who make up most of my marketing team, I suspect are people that don't agree with me about some things. And yet I never asked and I never said anything. I just want those people to know I love them.
Yeah.
And I want them to feel that and to know that they're just special people to me, and I love them, and I don't judge them by what they think or what they believe. They're my brothers and sisters.
Charles, can I ask, have you always felt this way growing up and going through life? Is it like something that's always been about you, feeling this way and treating people this way, or were you taught that way, or is it just,
or did something happen? You know, was there an incident where your life took a different direction?
I've not been a bad person. I've basically throughout my life, tried to be a good person.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, there's a world of difference in me now than there was even 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And I look back over my life and think of the just utterly stupid things that I did and said and thought and believed. And it was kind of a eureka moment, that point in time when I looked about me and thought I had something to say.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
I started the conversation with that, and that began. That's how all of this started.
Yeah.
And people ask me if I think that God's behind it, and whether He is or whether He isn't, I think He is, because I don't know of any other way to explain it. I'm the most unlikely person in the world to have written a book that would have the success that this one's had, and for people to be uh, treating me the way that they're treating me, and thinking about me the way that they think about me. Uh, I I, uh, I have no explanation for it other than uh, I started saying what I thought about things, and didn't want to sound like a fool. and so, and so, so I thought, how could you talk to people and and resonate with them? And you have to be a certain kind of person to be taken seriously. And so I started working on myself,
Yeah.
and all of this was a process of learning and self realization
Yeah.
about so many things.
I just say what's called, Charles, because obviously we talked before about, the world becoming so fast and changing so much. But in days gone by and back in hundreds of years, people would have sat around campfires and listened to their
Yes.
elders and learned wisdom from,
Yes.
the older generations. And the family nucleus, unfortunately, because of society, we do seem to have lost this. And even today, because families break up and everything else, not many people get to listen to their granddad, the great granddad, and all these amazing stories. And also as well, there's a bit of, when we're young, we think we know everything. We think we're invincible.
Right.
And then later on in life, we think, maybe I should have listened to Charles a bit more. And I think we're all guilty of that, but that's fine, because that's learning. And when we're learning, we're growing.
Sure.
And that's good. But where you are at the moment, are you sort of just going with the wind where it takes you, or do you have any plans of what you would like to do?
I want to keep saying what I think, and that's involving public speaking. And I have had some speaking engagements, not many yet. That's kind of a new thing, but writing and being on podcasts and having a TV show. Those 10 episodes that are on my website are from a TV show, and they're going up on LinkedIn now.
Yeah.
I'd never been on television in my life. The first time I was ever on television, I was the guy sitting there. I mean, I did, and yet I felt like I had something to say. So I was just me, and started telling folks what I thought about things. But if a door opens, I'm going through,
I don't blame.
and I'm going to tell people what I think about things, and what I have to say, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not getting any younger. At pressing on 78, but I'm still in great health.
Yeah.
And in great physical shape.
Right. Fantastic.
And it's it's a blessing. Uh, this may sound incredible to you, but I don't take any medication whatsoever.
Wow.
And the last time I was at the doctor, went to a doctor, was in April of 1969.
Wow.
And the reason that I went to the doctor then was I had to take a physical to get out of the Marine Corps. They made me go. And I've lived my entire life with the saying, "I'm going to play the hand I was dealt."
Mm.
I'm not afraid of dying. I've seen the sweet chariot come swinging in low a time or two, but it wasn't coming for me at that time. And I'm just have a kind of a philosophical view of living and dying, and that this body that I have is the hand I was dealt, and I'm living out my days, and someday my time will come. But if I broke my arm, I'd go to the doctor and get it fixed. But it hasn't happened. But if I get some awful disease, I'm just going to consider it my fate, and keep a good attitude about it, and go on to my next adventure.
Yeah.
That's my basic philosophy. So, but my health is still good, and I work out in a gym 4 days a week, but that's not to be able to bench press 300 pounds. I'm just trying to keep everything stretched out and loose and moving.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So I ride a bike and I stretch, and I get on the treadmill for a little bit, and I do some things to keep my legs strong, because I want to be able to get around. But I know I don't have. There's a certain reality to being my age, and that younger folks don't think about. Time is starting to catch up with you, whether it's a few more years or a few more after that. And I've reached a point where it just doesn't matter. I'm living today, and I'm gonna try to find someone to talk to, and if I don't, I accept it. This is not about succeeding or failing. I'm not driven to succeed.
Yeah.
And I don't. I'm just here, and if opportunities afford themselves, like I have here today, I'm gonna go on, answer people's questions, tell them what I think about things.
Fantastic. And you do what's called, Charles, you do have a lovely presence, a calming nature about you. You're sort of infectious, where, we watched a couple of your TV shows and we're like, I want to adopt him. We're like, we could listen to you. And how is the extended family finding your newfound fame and your interests? Are they all on board with it?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Of course, I'm just grandpa, to everybody else in the family, and my wife. I don't know if you know this, but I've been married to the same woman for 56 years now. So anytime especially now, might as well just soldier on with it.
You're doing God's work, Charles. You're doing God's work.
But we haven't gotten into that, but I have people say, how do you explain that? How have you been married all those years? And I have some thoughts on marriage that I share. And it's all, well, I won't get into it. That's a whole other subject for me to start talking about marriage. But, two people trying to live together in the same house for 56 years, and you think it's all going to be some fairy tale where you get married right off, and live happily ever after, is totally unrealistic. And how could anybody even imagine you could live with somebody for 56 years and not have an issue along the way? It's unthinkable. So I talk about things like that when I'm talking to young people. But now, to answer your question about my family, I'm just Charles to my wife, and dad to my kids, and grandpa to my grandkids, and nothing that's happened to me in recent years has changed that one bit. And that's fine. That's fine. Nobody's in awe of me. If my wife is no more impressed with me now than she was before.
Women have a fantastic way of keeping us grounded, Charles.
Oh yeah, yes they do.
Got a bit carried away. I'm sure that there's some washing or some rubbish to take out.
Yeah. I had to carry the garbage out.
Exactly.
And if I'd have forgotten it, I would have been reminded.
Yeah. So, you would have felt the true wrath of God. That's good, lovely.
It is absolutely amazing. Yeah. Speaking of grandpas, Charles, I was listening to one of your early videos, and you talk very lovingly about your own grandfather.
That's right.
And it'd be nice to share a bit of that story. I won't spoil it. It's better coming from you, but there was a bit of a funny story you had with your grandfather, wasn't there, initially?
Well, it's the first chapter in my book, and I was 4 years old and had gone to spend some time with my grandma and grandpa. And grandpa was a strong, kind of austere man, and I got up one morning, the first morning I was there, and went in, and he lived in just a little tiny house out in the country, and never had much in the way of material things, and he hunted and fished, and that was for something to eat that night, a great many times. But I could see that he was a sweet, gentle man, even though he came across as kind of gruff. And Grandma fixed breakfast one morning. I'm making the story short, but Grandma had fixed breakfast, and she made pancakes, and they were just the best pancakes in the world. Mm-hmm. And so we sit there, and not much talking, just eating, And again, I'm 4 years old, and we finished eating, and Grandpa looked at me and he said, "Let's go feed the hogs." And no option was implied. He never he never talked baby talk to me and said, "Would you like to go with me this morning and feed the hogs?" It wasn't a question. It was, "Let's go feed the hogs." And so, fact is, I couldn't wait to get up and help him with the morning chores. I knew we were going. So we got up, and you have to keep in mind, again, that Grandpa was a serious, kind of austere man. So we went outside, and we went up the little hill and through the gate, closed the gate behind us, and we're walking along through the barnyard toward the corn crib. And we hadn't said a word to each other, and I'm just this little guy tagging along with his grandpa. And suddenly, Grandpa stopped, and he turned toward me, and he pointed at me. And he said, "Pull my finger." And I mean, it was a command, you know, and
Oh,
without one thought or one hesitation, I reached up with my little hand and wrapped it around his finger and gave it a tug. And as I said in the book, Grandpa tooted. And he walked on as if nothing had happened out of the ordinary. I mean, you know, he needed somebody to pull his finger. And and I tell the story, and you can see to this day, the title of the chapter is Grandpa's Gift. And Grandpa's gift was a memory.
yes.
Yeah.
A memory that he gave me that has had me laughing for nearly 74 years now.
Yeah.
Every time I have thought of that moment in time, I have laughed. I have never laughed. When he did that, I just lost complete and absolute control of myself. I have never before or since laughed with such hysteria and lack of dignity. I fell down on the ground. I was kicking the ground with my feet. My sides ached. I mean, I was just absolutely hysterical. And I couldn't quit thinking about this. And for days, I just couldn't stop laughing at what happened. And no matter where I was in life through the years, no matter what the circumstances were, Grandpa gave me a memory that made me laugh. And it never left me. And in the book, I make my first point. What a gift to give a little boy.
Yeah.
If he'd have bought me a new pocket knife, or he didn't have a lot of money. I don't remember Grandpa ever giving me a present, but he gave me the greatest gift anyone's ever given me.
Yeah.
And that was a memory of that time with him, and that moment, and the laughter that's lasted a lifetime. That's his legacy.
Oh, it's beautiful, that, Charles.
It's we've all fallen for that, I guess, when we were
Yeah.
little. There's always somebody, but Grandpa was the one that got me, and I've never stopped laughing about it. That's the first story in the book, with the point, and that kind of sets the tone. I told a story, but there's a point to it.
Yeah, there
You know,
is. Yeah.
spend time with your grandkids and spend time with your children.
Yeah.
Quality time. You don't have to get out on the ground and wrestle around with them. Just be with them,
Yeah.
and make memories.
Yeah, definitely.
Make memories for them, good memories. That was the first point of the book, and then I go on to other things and other stories. And people tell me when they read my book, they go through the whole gambit of emotions. They said they laugh, they cry. I mean, some of it's kind of sad, and the stories are based in my life, and I've known hardship. I've known grief, and all of the things that we have to deal with, walking down the road of life. And I didn't always handle it as well as I should have, and those were lessons to be learned.
Yeah.
That's
So
beautiful.
when are they going to make the Charles Hamm movie then? When are we expecting that?
You're not going to believe this,
Well, go on.
but there, and there again, I can't believe what's happening to me. There are people actually have have contacted me and wanted to know if I would be interested in doing a movie.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
And
You
I
deserve
don't
it,
know.
Charles.
I don't know what'll become of it, and I don't know what they have in mind. I've never been in a movie either, and I guess I told somebody, I said, I suppose that, in any movie, could be a part worked in for some old man, sitting in a rocking chair, maybe, maybe, trying to say something wise to somebody or something like that. But that has been, that is being discussed.
Lovely.
And some people have talked about a documentary on my life.
That'd be nice.
But my life is remarkably typical as I look at it. But what I found, which has come as a surprise to me, is that other people don't see me that way. But I've never done anything other than just I went to war when I got out of school, and then I got married, and I've raised kids and worked for a living like everybody else. And but it's a remarkable thing that seems to be happening, and again. I can't explain it except that there is something providential happening, and to whatever degree that is, remains to be seen. And I'm content to just watch and see what happens, and will not consider it all a waste of time if I have a chance to sit and talk with a couple of folks like you all some morning.
That's true.
And this is what I do now. I talk to people and tell them what I think. There's no heavy lifting, or anything like that. So it's a pretty good career for an old guy.
People take great, guidance from the great wisdom that you're offering. I know you're humble in your stories, but they are important, because people are, as they're making their way through their own lives, to take inspiration from somebody that has gone through difficult moments in life, got through the other side, is still smiling, is still showing love to others, is still trying to make a difference to this world. That's hugely inspiring. And I think it's an honor for both of us to speak to you today, Charles. It's an absolute honor.
Hopefully this can just be part one of maybe speaking with you again, if you can free up some time for us.
If you ask me back, I'll come.
100%. We'd love to follow your journey, Charles, and find out what you're doing, and also just on a personal note, just to have a catch up and see if you're okay, and just see how you're doing. That would be fantastic.
So, Charles, can you tell our viewers? You've got a great website, by the way. It's beautifully created.
Yeah, it is a lovely website.
Could you give the website details? I presume this is where people can buy your book, because ultimately that's what we would like people to
they can go there. It's Charles Hamm, all run together, CHARLES. You Brits know Charles, but I'm Hamm, HAMM, CharlesHamm.com.
Well, I prefer Charles Hamm to the Charles that you're on about over this side.
Is it proper to call you all Brits? I said that not knowing if that's a proper...
you can call us what you want, Charles.
Charles, I've been called some terrible things over here. Brits is an easy one.
I'll tell you one quick story. I ran into a man. It hasn't been that long ago, and I think it'll illustrate. I don't really take myself too seriously. This man obviously had a British accent.
Yeah.
And so as we talked a little bit and it became evident, I asked him, I said, "Where are you from?" And he said he was from Great Britain, the United Kingdom. And I said, "Well, I could tell by your accent that you weren't from these parts." and I was just wondering, and I said, I'd like to know. I said, did you learn English over there, or have you picked it up since you've been in the States? And he looked at me like, this has got to be the biggest moron that I've ever met in my life. And I'm looking at him just dead serious, And all of a sudden it hit him. This guy cannot be that stupid. He has got to be joking. And he got the biggest laugh out of that I've ever seen anybody get. And it was most, just both got a big laugh out of it.
Fantastic.
But I've been known to kind of tease a little bit with people.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
But there's a thing about Texans. They say, if a Texan likes you, he'll tease you.
Yeah.
And if he don't like you, he won't say nothing to you. he'll just ignore you. So we have a little different way down here in Texas. I don't know how we're not like the people in the other states, or we don't think we are anyway. So it's a little different. But I've just been honored to get to know you all. I feel like I've made two new friends.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. The pleasure's all ours as well, Charles. It's been absolutely amazing to meet you. And hopefully the start of a fantastic friendship going forward.
Absolutely. If I ever get over your way, I'll look you up.
No, well, it's definitely in our plans to get over to the US. So if it's the first chance we get, we'll definitely be looking you up. I've definitely got some unfinished business. I still want to find out the connection with Michigan and all the rest of it.
Oh yeah.
And also as well, I think there's a big audience. There's a big audience in America for some of the conversations that we're having and the talks.
Sure.
From what we've noticed is as well, I think over here in the UK, we're a little bit behind with the US with some things, with some subjects that we don't seem to be quite opening up to them yet. Like even so I do think maybe where we are on our journey, the US would probably resonate a lot more as well.
I think so. We're all just folks, and some of us speak English with an accent. People in Texas don't, but most other people do. Actually, I speak Texan. English is my second language. We have a different way of talking down here too. But another thing is, in Texas, we're not one of the colonies.
Yeah,
and so you all would feel real comfortable down here. Some of those people up north, I don't know if they've gotten over things or not, but it'd be great if y'all came. There was a man spoke to me just a couple of days ago about and he's from London, and he was talking about he wanted to create an event and have me come and speak. So
yeah,
I might be headed that way. There's so much I'd love to see over there. Stonehenge. I mean, all these places you all just kind of take for granted. I've wanted to see all my life, and if I get over there, I'm going to take a few days to.
You make sure you do.
If you do, Charles, and we do get that opportunity to connect, and maybe we can organise something where you can do a public speech as well in the north of England, and we can organise something and get some people together, and we'll organise something for you.
And we'll certainly, as well as showing people this video, we'll certainly put a link and push your book,
of course,
and push your website, and you know, and I look forward to sitting down with a cup of hot chocolate and reading it myself. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing, Charles.
I think the book. I don't feel like I'm shamelessly hawking my book. It's changing people's lives, and I hear that all the time. And if I've got something that, you know, I can put in your hands that will make you stop and ponder on some things,
yes,
that's a good thing. So I appreciate any help you can be with my book. And it's sold in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, we're definitely
Ireland, and you know.
Yeah. The way we look at it, Charles, your granddad left you a memory of pulling his finger,
Yes,
and you can leave everybody a memory with your book.
excellent.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll what's it called? Wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I say hello to the family. Give our love to your family.
I absolutely will.
And you take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a great day.
And you, Charles. Take care, mate.
And you.
Bye-bye. Yes, sir. Bye-bye.